G'day everybody, and welcome back to more ACS. There were a couple of things I didn't test yesterday which I have just confirmed are working, or at least partially. The drones are returning to base after a certain time frame, which is great. I'm just trying to watch this Scrabbler to see if it actually does the thing it's supposed to do. So the thing this is supposed to do is... it is meant to be flying towards a base, which it looks like it might be. It then kind of hovers over the base, lowers down, and then rises up again and then flies away. Basically, the idea is that the cargo ships will actually look like they are engaging with the bases around the area, which I think makes everything a lot more dynamic. It makes their routes a lot more believable, and I think it's a really, really nice feature that Lucas added to the mod. To MES. And so I figured I had to take advantage of it because it looks awesome. And as you can tell, I think the last drone from yesterday's testing has decided to leave, and I am now without aggressor. And that was always intended to be the way that those drones operated. I wanted them to be able to leave after a certain time, so if you are pinned down in a hole, it's not until they actually run out of power. It's a long time to wait, but if you're a patient person and you're underground, you can probably wait them out. At least the current versions of the drones, because the current versions of the drones do not have any rockets or anything like that that would be a bit nastier. And I really wish this ship was going faster, because that's 5Ks away. Thank you so much for a year's sub, Caberman. I think I say your name differently every time I say it. Cabraman? Caberman? I hope you don't mind. I see these simple looking ships and think, why didn't I think this simply? I think one of the nice things... Oh, KB. Wait, as in KB from the Discord? Is that the same? Is that the connection? Did you just help me connect the dots? Ah, oh well, that's easier. I will probably remember that sometimes. I see this simple looking ship and think, why don't I design this simply? So one of the reasons that these ships, especially this one, that's really neat. This is one of Jackson's ships. But one of the reasons that the ships in ACS have a simpler aesthetic, I guess, is because of the PCU limits that we were working with. The more you limit yourself to be something, like the more constraints you give yourself, I think the easier it becomes to create something that's clean in design. Hey, Black Shadow, thank you so much for 5 months. And your art, of course. Thank you. I'm sorry, everyone, I started a bit later with my stream this morning. I ended up staying up a bit late last night trying to learn Arc server admin controls. Which sounds really bizarre, but just so I had a few things I could do, and if I needed to during a stream, that sort of stuff. I wanted to learn how to actually do those things. Okay. Right. You're very welcome, Apocrypha. So I was actually at the end of the stream yesterday talking like I was going to get this all wrapped up really easily, and I was really, really close. I think I've got more to do than I remembered yesterday, but we still made some really good progress yesterday, so I'm happy. Because if this works, this bit that we're watching right now, we're sorted for the cargo ship behavior. The extra stuff that I'm going to need to do beyond this, of course, is making sure that the lootable thrusters are there and that the lootable thrusters work when you've got that mod added, but also you can still have ships when you don't have that one, because I want that part to be optional. Largely because I think it'll make it easier for me to have a version of the mod that works on mod.io.
Critical.
Thanks on Fluffy Dave. I'm just hearing that "G'day, mate" in Texas accent. Thanks, Arcathorn. I'm glad you're having fun with the community, and Blackshot, I'm glad you're enjoying the Arc server so far. So this is working as it's supposed to. Should hover there for a minute, and then it should fly off. I think. Thanks, PBM. Thanks for the Prime sub. I think it should. I don't know what's going on outside my room, but I hope you guys can't hear it, because it sounds like a symphony of chainsaws. Except not remotely coordinated. Come on. Do the thing you're supposed to do. I can't remember how long I've got this set to stay here for. Because if it just hovers here now, that's not good. Oh dear. Oh, no. It's going. It's going. Perfect. Yes. Good. Yes. Okay. So that works. So my plan for this morning was to mess around with the bases and see if I can make sure that their behaviors are working properly. So the bases have a few things that they need to be able to do. What they should do is give you a warning radio message when you get too close. So, but that will just be a message. So it's a warning to allow people new to the mod to realize that the base sees you, the base knows you're there, and if you keep coming closer, you'll get attacked. The next is, once you get too close, a drone will spawn and a drone will come after you. And then if you actually cause damage to the base, I think we should make it so that sometimes a drone will come after you when you cause damage. But I think it might be nice, at least for the easier level bases, for the damage-based drone to be intermittent. The reason I think that is, if you're attacking a simple base like the one we just flew over, I think it's nice as a player to be able to go, I took out the drone, okay, now I can just focus on the base. I don't need to keep aware of all these other things. I can actually just focus on my task at hand, and I think that's more fun. Once you've done that a few times, then the game needs to change up. So that's when you'll attack, and sometimes you will get hit. Sometimes you'll get another drone coming after you. Sometimes other things will happen. And I think that's important. I think that adds something to the experience. The other thing that needs to happen is sometimes that base needs to call in help from the nearby bases in the area. Much as the cargo ships can, these bases need to be able to call in help sometimes. And I think I've got that set up, but I'm not sure. That's all of the direct player, that's sort of the reactive stuff that the bases should be able to do. But there's also a proactive thing that the bases do, which is every now and then they should send out a drone to attack a player if they're nearby. And by nearby, I mean anywhere within, I think I've got it set to about 15 Ks. So that means if you have a base spawned nearby, every now and then it should send a drone after you. And when I say every now and then, I mean every like half hour to an hour. Not frequently at all. Just enough to let you know that they're there and to give you that little wriggle on to go and deal with them. Now that behavior should only be present once you are an enemy of Assert. And so I've got to check that side of things too. Now, to check that, I think I'm going to check that side of the behavior. Oh, actually, no. Let's check the other stuff first. The other stuff's easier to test. Let's remove all the things. And let's be nice and close to the ground. And we are going to spawn a planetary installation. Maybe. Yep. Okay, we've got an operations outpost somewhere, and I don't know where it is. Great. Hello? Ooh. That's one of the big ones. Oh, that could actually be a problem. Yeah, that could be a problem. Yeah, Sunchaser, 15 kilometers I see as being close by because I want the drones to sometimes be a bit of a surprise once you reach that point. And that's the key thing. Because I'm combining all the mods into one, could be a problem that these are... that this is a medium level base. I may need to set it to lower. I've also got to fix up whether these have inhibitor fields. There we go. Enemy detected and 2 drones spawned. Because this is a high level base. So this is actually the wrong way to start this test. Now, the command I used yesterday. Where did TFE send it to me? And is it somewhere I've got saved? Yes, it is. Excellent. So, we want to change my threat handicap to 50. Then slash MES dot get eligible. No. Get threat score. Minus 50. Okay, we want to set that to minus 50. Yeah, cool. Alright, that's right. Set your door close time in teal survival to 0. Yeah, I might give that a go. Okay, spawn an installation. Gotta watch base down there. So, hand drill inhibitor field. Yeah, I think we need to get rid of those. I was thinking about it yesterday, and I know why Lucas added the inhibitor fields, and I think they're useful for certain encounters where you want players to kind of progress through the encounter in a particular direction. So if you've made a little bit of a dungeon where things start at one end and you want players to progress around and encounter things in a particularly scripted fashion because it enhances their experience, then having a drill inhibitor field to stop them from burrowing up underneath is good. But I've started to come around to the idea that if you want to be boring and drill up on the bases, go for it. Ruin your fun. I'm not fussed. But if you're attacking a little base like this that's just got a couple of interior turrets and you're like, oh my god, I'm getting so pinned down, I'm just going to drill a little foxhole. I don't want to stop you from doing that. I want to let you do that. That's not to say that I'm not going to use these inhibitor fields. I am, like on that large base you just saw before. Those ones will have them. But these little bases? Nah. Nah, these little bases, they're meant to be able to be assaulted on foot. And so I think giving people the ability to use a drill to create a trench or a little foxhole to hide in, I think that's right. So, 3 kilometers, nothing. I don't know where I've got the trigger point set to. Oh. Okay. There was no warning, there was just a drone spawn. That's not what I want. And then another one. Right, okay. So I've got a spawn on the initial, which isn't right. I shouldn't do that. Yeah, exactly, Unfluffy. I think military installations, yeah, will have inhibitor fields, but anything smaller than that, nah. Just let people have their fun if they want to do it that way. It's fascinating the stuff I feel I've learned from playing RimWorld in terms of what my role is as the person who's sort of playing the game master role. Those of you familiar with RimWorld would be familiar with the idea that Tynan messes with RimWorld based on what he sees players doing. And when he sees players doing things that he doesn't like or playing the game a way that he doesn't like, he tries to make changes to force them to adapt. The trouble is, some of those things he does to force people to adapt take away a sense of agency from people who play the game the way he intended it to be played, and are only really blocking people who play the game the way he didn't intend to. So he's kind of, some of the decisions, at least from my opinion, and there are probably different opinions, but some of the things he does tend to ruin the game experience for the people who he actually should be helping have a good experience. So I think I want to avoid that by just accepting that if there are people who are going to cheese it, let them cheese it. They're just ruining things for themselves. Doesn't affect me at all. Let's close all these. I'm going to close all these files too, because I just want to try and get open what I need for today. The only inhibitor field I'm not fond of is the jetpack, but that's mainly because I learned it existed via spontaneous litho breaking. The jetpack inhibitor field is an interesting one. I think the jetpack inhibitor field makes more sense for cargo ships than it does for bases. So my plan is to potentially use the jetpack inhibitor field on the military ships. The military bases should have enough angles covered that you're going to struggle to jetpack in. And if you jetpack in, go for it. You'll still probably get killed and you won't get anywhere. You really should be attacking those things with a grid. So a ship or a rover or something. Something that can actually take a few hits. But the cargo ships, I think the better part about them having an inhibitor field is you'll probably get your jetpack back before you hit the ground. What's a jetpack inhibitor? So let's open up the files. I can show you, hopefully. If we go to, I think it's going to be spawn groups installations. Is it? Is this where I set the inhibitors? I can't remember now. Oh yeah. So MES suppressor drill large. So some of the things that Lucas has added to the modular encounter systems setup is the ability to create a field in an area around a base, or a field, more generic than that, field in an area around a grid. It's a sphere that will stop the player from using their drill or their jetpack. So the point of that being, you've probably seen, if you've watched enough of Capac and I play in the early days, us using our jetpacks to get in close and be able to actually put assault a base on foot. The idea of these inhibitors was to stop that. I think I think there's certainly environments where they are useful, but I feel like they're very easy to overuse and ruin the experience for lots of other people as a result. So, to start off with, I'm going to get rid of these drill suppressors. That's step one. That's something I need to do for all these spawn groups. Because I don't want them. If you're like me, you won't use your drill anyway, because you're like, ugh, I've done that so many times. I'm gonna try and assault this differently. I'm gonna build a drone. I'm gonna do a whatever. If you're not like me, you're gonna be annoyed by the fact that there's a suppressor there. So I think for these simple outposts, there's no reason for it. Drone repair facility. Now, it was actually pretty big, but I'm going to get rid of the jetpack suppressor. Just have the drill. Because these are the medium ones. Yeah. Get rid of the jetpack suppressor. Yeah, that's what I want. I don't know if it... I don't think it blocks... Or maybe it does. Anyone in chat know? I'm not sure if there's a... if it blocks grid tools as well. Yeah, Sanjay, so that's exactly the sort of thing that the drill and jetpack suppressors are supposed to encourage. They're supposed to encourage the player to engage with the bases using a tank, using a throwaway drone, using a fighter, using something like that. That's the intent of it. And I think in some cases they do that, but in a lot of cases they don't. Now the other thing for bases, I'm going to get rid of these threat score minimums because we don't have a threat score minimum. One of the things I used to do with ACS was that you would actually not get any bases or any cargo ships until you reached a certain threat score. All that did was make it so that I had to repeatedly answer questions about people saying, why doesn't anything spawn when I start my game? I haven't seen any cargo ships. Like, have you built anything? It takes time after you've built something. You do need to wait till you've built something before anything will spawn. So yeah, I'm going to avoid that this time. Okay, so we got our spawn groups sorted. Let's just check that the moon ones are also sorted. Again, get rid of my threat score minimums. Because these are all small bases at present. And then... yeah, Shadar, you're right. I probably will get complaints that they spawn too early. However, my idea is that I want them to spawn early, but not attack you early. So I want to figure out a way to have that happen. And I think I have one. I just can't remember if it still works. So that's our spawn groups. They're sorted. Next up is our behaviors for these. Hey, Tinjo. Hey, Mighty Cheddar. You're glad you're enjoying it. So one of the things I had thought about in terms of making making things work better from the cargo ship point of view before players are really ready is have some small grid cargo ships that are really early game and disappear after that. Very funny, Zero Shadow. Although it would be kind of nice to have the Space Engineers grass as a Windows background and just this peaceful rolling clouds. Okay, we got... Don't need the drone behaviors. Right, so we've got civilian behavior. And then we've got easy behavior. So there are a number of grids now that won't call in as much help. Oh, we don't have a prox far. We've just got the prox near. What's the spawner A for this? Right, I've got a lot of work to do on the behavior for the bases. So let's start with the civilian one. What I want is a far trigger as well. So let's add that to our triggers list. So the far trigger will be the first radio command. Similar to the cargo ships, I want the behaviors to be consistent enough. Alfington, I suspect the speedruns are done with. I don't think we're going to be returning to those at any point. They were fun for a bit, but it's not the way I like to play games long term. It was a good challenge though. Brandon, I'm not doing anything to fix the versions that are currently on the workshop. This is a totally different version, and it will replace them all. So until it comes out, any bugs are bugs, and they're staying bugs in the versions that are on the workshop. So trigger proc far. Let's grab this one, copy it. So what we're doing here is adding a trigger for when the player is getting kind of close to these bases. And the kind of close in this case, I think we'll make it 1800 meters. The reason I want this one relatively far is, relatively close, is this is the civilian base. These are the least defended facilities. These are the ones that you should be able to take on foot. Hey, Lou. How's it going? Also, Brandon, if you're playing on a modded planet, that's going to be an issue regardless, unfortunately. Hey, thanks for the sub as well, Lou. So, triggered about 1800 meters. And the action we're going to have... I really need to ask Lucas what the way to organize these files is, because apparently my file organization is terrible, as I keep getting told. Oh. Right. Just realized something. What? Spawner. I need to add chance to this. Okay, so what I just realized something that I have in this that I hadn't realized. So what I've got is the trigger for if the player is near, but I've also got a trigger if the player is near and an enemy. So that's if your faction standing is less than 1350. In theory, my mod should set your base faction standing to the minus 1,000 at the start. So you have to attack and do a fair bit of damage to assert to get down to this score. Which I have in my save that I've been testing with. Right. We still need a prox far one though. And I'm going to grab ammo easy behavior and copy its setup. So the action I want is this. Prox trigger, yeah, trigger action. No, you can't increase the standing. It is a limitation of Keen's systems as far as I understand it. They have not made it easy to mess with their yeah, they haven't made it easy to mess with their systems around factions and all the economy stuff. So let's just delete chance out of that. We don't need chance on that one. No, OXE1, I have not done a default light settings mod yet. It's on the to-do list. I should probably do it. I think... I might be able to just get away with using the same chats here. Without any reply. So there's no reply on these ones. These are just a broadcast out. Get rid of that. So what I've set up there is we've created a trigger. The trigger is triggered by the player being near at 1800 meters. And at 1800 meters, it will send out this chat. That's all I want it to do. No, can't add shops. Well, it can, but I'm not going to. Not for this mod. This is a combat mod. It's not a civilian mod. No. No, the only faction to whom you can raise standings by killing another faction's stuff is space pirates. No other faction is able to do that. It's a frustrating limitation of Keen's setup. Yeah, Exendo, I don't like using replace all because I often I like to kind of check things as I go through. I use it sometimes when I'm confident that I actually want to replace all of something, but most of the time I don't want to. So most of the time it's intentional that I'm doing things the slow way. Also gives me time to think. Yeah, KB, the Perpetually Perturbed Pirates mod keeps your faction standing with pirates low so that you don't become friends with them. I used to have it as a dependency of ACS, so you couldn't become friendly with the pirates if you played with it. But again, it was one of those things I'm like, if you want to be friends with the pirates, fine. Whatever. Again, make your game broken if you want to. Why do I need to stop the player from doing that? So then we got that prox near trigger. For civilian basis, I think it's still fine for this to be 1,000, but this needs to have chance. I'm going to leave it at 100 just for the moment, but we'll drop that at the end. All of these things I'm going to leave at 100 while I'm testing to make sure that they actually do trigger. But once we know that they trigger, then I can drop the chance down lower. So the idea of the civilian one is this chance will be maybe 25%. So only a small fraction of the time will you get a drone coming after you if you approach these bases too close. And these are the most basic of bases. They won't really give you much in the way of materials, and they'll just be a little bit of something fun to combat. It breaks some of the vanilla encounters if you're friends with the pirates. You can just steal their stuff and no one cares. That to me is a broken mechanic. Action procs near. So when this gets triggered, it will trigger this action, which is going to send a chat and cause a spawn, which is this. And I'm going to get rid of this mosquito and mayfly. In fact, may get rid of the wasp as well. Just leave these two very basic drones as the options for spawning. And then if you're an enemy at let's put this at 600 meters. At 600 meters, if you're an enemy, it will also cause a spawn to happen and send out a different chat. So apparently I've got a different chat for that. Killing any faction except for the space pirates, grinding them, drilling into them with your drill, doing any damage to any faction except for the space pirates will make the space pirates like you. It was a very lazy implementation of faction standings adjustment that Keen did nothing to fix when they did the economy update, which is really sad because the economy update could have been something awesome, but they just didn't do the things. So what's this called? What chats? Easy. Chat procs enemy. Oh yeah, we got it. Okay, cool. All right. Yep, kill Reavers, kill... It literally anything that has a faction ID. The space pirates will start liking you. But they're the only ones you can make like you. Alright, so, in theory, the civilian bases should be good. Now, I just got to check which bases they are. So, this top one. Now I need to create a new save to test this. Marcus, do you mean like the AI-enabled NPCs? If so, no, I don't plan to have any of them in this mod by default. But I'm kind of tempted as a thing after I do the release of this to make a version where I've got, well, to make separate spawn groups that will be active if you also have so if you have AI enabled on your save, then you'll get a different group of spawns that will have fewer interior turrets, but they'll have bots on board. But that's a thing to do afterwards, because what I'd like to do is give people the option of playing with or without AI enabled. And if you play with it, then you'll have a different interaction with the ships. And the ships will all be manned. And same with some of the bases. Because I think that could add something really cool. So, new game, custom. Star system. So we go fresh test. Yeah, KB, I'm going to make the interior turret mod a dependency. If Keen ever fix it, then I'll remove the dependency. And I think that's all I need to test this. Alrighty, so first thing when I get in is I need to spawn an ACS thing, a base, and then I need to check what my faction standing is to them. Likely explosion. I'm not sure that content where we're not allowed to communicate would be interesting to watch, since the communication's mainly what we do. Oh, nuts. I forgot to add one mod. I need to add the mod that gives me infinite suit power. Because something that I learned early on in the testing, but kept forgetting for a while, is that while Lucas's targeting system works with player untargetable off, when you've made your player untargetable, it does not work with the way I've set things up if you've run out of power. So for ages I was struggling to figure out why I wasn't getting targeted by my drones, and it turns out it was because I had no suit power, so I didn't count as a valid target. And I think Lucas was running into the same issues, which is why he made a mod that gives you infinite suit energy. While still being in survival mode. Or creative mode in a survival game. Yeah, I think there are plenty of interesting ways you could mess with the control in City Skylines to try and give oh, wait a second. Do I have to add? Yes, I do. Because this is a local mod, I actually have to add MES. Yeah, there are plenty of entertaining things you could do with City Skylines to limit who gets to control what and how the interactions happen. And I think there are ways we'd potentially change things up now that we know who plays what way. Not quite sure Wasted expected me to build roads the way I do, but that is genuinely how I build them when I'm just playing on my own. Because it's boring otherwise. City Skylines is a really, really easy game. Like, they do not make it at all a challenge to make enough money to keep your city going. So why min-max anything when it's that easy? There's just no reason to. There's no drive to. So I go for interesting over effective. SimCity 4 and earlier were the true city builders. The more recent SimCity was trash. Okay, so we got an Assert research base. We've discovered Assert, which means I can now check what my faction standings are. Standing to Assert is minus 1,000. That's what I wanted. So we start at minus 1,000, which means I should, based on the information we have here... Actually, that's the wrong type of base, isn't it? Let's get rid of that. Yeah, that's a bigger base. So let's go back here. Let's get a civilian base. In fact, the one I just spawned might have been. This has got the civilian behavior. There we go. We got a research base. Based on what we set up just then, we should have... Oops, keep pressing the wrong thing. This should... Civilian behavior. At 1,800 meters, we will get a message, but no spawn. At 1 kilometer, we will get a message and a spawn. And at 600 meters, we'll get nothing because our standing is higher than this. So let's see. See if that's what happens. Yeah, SimCity 4 was awesome. Rowan Cheth, the... what's going on at the moment is I am getting the Assertive Combat Systems mod ready for release. So I'm testing all my behavior functions. Once they're all in place, then I'll set about fixing up all the grids to have the modern weapons and those sorts of things. So there we go. There's a restricted area leave now. Security forces have been authorized to engage. Perfect. Now we should get another message and a drone to spawn at 1 kilometer.
Fuel low.
There we go. We got a mayfly. That mayfly should come and attack me.
Critical.
But it's not. Oh, or is it? Is it? Oh yeah, it is. It definitely is. Okay. It's just taking a moment. And now, nothing will happen when I get to 600 meters. Perfect. Alright, let's get a gun. Because that's a more fun way to lower my standings. Shift F10. MR50A. Oh, the recoil, it's so bad. By now? Minus 1187. Hey, blowing stuff up. Maybe on Fluffy Dave, maybe. Oh. There we go. Enemy identified in restricted area, moving to intercept. Because my faction standing is now minus 1360. So that part of it works. Brilliant. I'm happy. Cool. So our civilian behavior works perfectly. Now, the civilian behavior for the spaces is quite different to the easy behavior. The thing that makes it different is the civilian behavior will not send out drones to seek you if you're vaguely nearby. Instead, that's for the high level bases. So these ones are intended to be the zero threat. These you can engage with or not as you wish. Yeah, unfluffy days. So things like the recoil fix mod and making weapons explode mods and stuff like that. I was thinking about, instead of making them dependencies and forcing people to use these things, I was thinking of putting them as links in the description of the mod, saying you might consider these mods to improve your experience with my mod, but they're optional. Same with perpetually perturbed pirates. And I curse Lucas for making that so alliterative. Because, yeesh. How long do I think it will take me to have ACS ready for release? So, my plan is to keep working on ACS in every moment that I have where I'm not editing Survival Impossible. And replacing a couple of the streams during the weeks, maybe. But I'd like to get it done in the next couple of weeks. So, we'll see. But basically, I want to work on it frequently enough that I can remember what I've done and what I'm doing and not have to refresh myself and spend 2 hours figuring out where I was actually up to begin with. Because I think that will help a lot. But I am satisfied that my civilian base behavior is done. So they need to be really simple. That's all they need to do. The only thing that I might change is I might create a new chat profile for the Proxfar chat. And so let's find AI base chat prox near. Oh, actually, yeah, let's create a new one, because one of the other things I want to do before release is work through all these chat things and get audio recordings for all of them and make them all a bit more, add a few extra options. Wait a sec. Oh, never mind. I already have one. AI buys chat box far. I just didn't have them for the civilian behavior. Must have deleted it somehow. Some reason. A reason that doesn't make sense to me anymore. Going well, Urban Hangman. Because I'm actually making real progress. So we can close civilian behavior. I'm happy. I'm satisfied. It's where I want it to be. Now, what I could do is make sure that it's the ones with civilian behavior that have no threat score minimum. And these ones should have a threat score minimum, which I need to fix. I just want to make sure I don't mess up the format. So let's grab that. Civilian, civilian, civilian. Easy. And we'll set that to 50. Well, let's go 80. Oh, no, wait, no, 50, 50, 50, 50. 50 is enough. 50, I don't know. I find it really hard to figure out where the balance is with these threat scores. I used to do it based off things like the chomper and the cockroach, but then that only works if you also don't have a base. Okay, there we go. That's done. So the civilian bases are sorted. Now let's get the easy ones done. Yeah, Brandon, that's exactly right. And that's exactly why I'm trying to smash this out over a few weeks. The idea is if I can get all of this background stuff sorted, I'll be able to have a mod that functions well enough that all I can, when I want to do a bit more, I can choose to just come along and add a grid, and it'll easily slot in, and it'll all be fine. So that's kind of what I want to get to that point of. I'll be back in just a second. I need to take a quick bio break and close my door because it is freezing in here. But I wanted to have some fresh air. I think it's like, yeah, it's like 13 degrees in my shed right now. Nope, no door closing for me. Charlie's decided she wants to go out, which means instead I'm going to wrap myself up in my Twitch partner blanket, which is actually kind of comfy. Except for the bits of Charlie's stick that got attached to it. For those wondering, Charlie's my dog. All right, so what I was trying to say before I took that little break was, and I think I said it quite poorly, I want to get the mod to a point where it doesn't matter that I don't remember how I did all this stuff, because this stuff works. What that'd mean is I can come in and go, I'm going to make a new base. And I'm going to make a new ship. And I'm going to do one of the ships that was submitted, and I'm going to make it added to the mod. And I can just do that because all I need to do is copy the spawn group info from a similar ship and add it in to the spawn group file, save it, upload it to the workshop. We're sweet. And that's all I need to do. So that's kind of where I want to get to. Guyver, I don't mean... So for me, it's actually understanding how this stuff even works. Comments won't help me. I would need I'd need an essay to explain to myself how things work, because I don't do this stuff much. So no, I comments are not enough. Okay, so now we have Atmo Easy. This one's a little bit more complex, but I actually need to open up the thing I just closed. And because I want to return, I want to get more proc. I want to get the prox bar triggers back for this one as well. In fact, I probably should have just done it this way. So we'll copy again. What's there for prox near? It's going to be prox far. And in this case, the distance I want to use is going to be 2.5 Ks. Yeah, I think if I ever get back to doing more of that IC10 stuff in Stationeers, I think that's where I should write comments. Because that stuff I need to actually explain what the code is, because the code doesn't say it in front of me. In theory, I should just be able to read this and not need comments. Although there will come a point shortly where we're going to look at something where I probably do need to comment it, because it is a bit more complex than what these sort of setups are. Trigger prox far. We're going to go action prox far. So that's a 2.5 Ks. I think we might push this out to 1400 meters. Again, these bases are pretty low level, so they shouldn't be doing too much. Action prox near. Rename that. And we have a AI-based chat prox far. So that's going to happen, and we're getting rid of the spawning counter. Yeah. But yeah, I know the IC10 thing doesn't use is some twisted form of assembly language. But I think it's weirdly a good way for me to learn, because the game provides me some simple things to do with it. Maybe. All right, so chat prox far. Let's get back to focusing on this. Chat prox far, 2.5 Ks. We're going to get a chat command, which is fine because we've got it, and it's one that works. Then we have our near trigger, same as the civilian one. At 1400 meters, it's going to have a chat and a spawn thing. Now the spawn, I think I've got all the spawners down the bottom. Yeah, because I've only got this one spawner profile for this. But I've made it so I can add more spawner profiles if I want to have things change up a little bit. So spawner A does that. And then we have our tricksy little hobbitses. This is my War and Peace, is what I used to call it. So the reason I used to call it War and Peace was there were two modes of the old assertive installations. It had a peace mode where it just sat with its antenna, and back then the antenna range was what determined whether you would get a drone to spawn. So it would have an antenna range that would be set to something short, like 2.5 Ks, and then periodically it would jump up to 15 kilometers or 13, something that I thought the drone could actually survive to fly over. And that was its war phase. That's when the bases went, I'm sick of you, player. I'm going to send drones to go and attack you. Which I think was... That was kind of what made ACS special. That was what made my assertive mod special at the time, because there really weren't many people taking advantage of Keen's antenna spawning mechanics in a way that was more dynamic. And that's kind of why the assertive mods became popular, I think. Possibly also because I was playing with them. I don't know. But that was the thing to me that was special about them. That was what I wanted from them. I wanted something dynamic. I wanted something that felt like it wasn't just a static base that was there and I could choose how to engage with it. So that's what this does. So this trigger procs war will only happen once your standing is low enough. And apparently the target distance I've used is 12.62 kilometers for reasons. Probably because I wanted a more difficult to remember number. So this trigger is only active when your faction standing is lower than that. So you've had to have caused 250 points drop of faction standing. I think we need to make that worse. I think we need to take that to 1350. Actually, you know what? Let's go 1400. So this trigger also will only happen if this condition is met. This condition checks whether war mode is true. There's a separate file that determines how that happens, which I'll get to shortly, and just read through to check that it is all making sense. How many Capacs died in testing this? Very few so far. I would love to test this properly with him once it's ready to go. Because basically, my ideal, and I think there are enough people out there that fall roughly in the same sort of vicinity in terms of how they play, that I think it's a reasonable way to balance it. My ideal is to have something that works well for co-op play with me and Capac. Just the two of us. That's my ideal. Because a lot of the time, that's where I have the most fun in Space Engineers. That or solo play building stupid giant things like in Survival Impossible. The two. Those are my two kind of happy places. Main happy places. There are plenty of others, but those are my two main ones in Space Engineers. So action procs war. This causes a spawn, which will then attack the player. So we've also got a trigger procs enemy. Much like the civilian bases do. Oh. I realized I just forgot to change something in the civilian. This. Okay, 1 in 5 chance that you'll actually get a drone. Most of the time you won't. Because we tested it and it worked, so I don't need to worry about that. Thanks so much, JC Gamer in Wii. Thank you for 2 years. It's crazy how many people are at that mark. You're all very generous. I am very grateful. So, Brandon, I don't think that's an issue. So my concern with using the faction system with no way to improve relations is people may be very hesitant to ever engage. So the idea behind using the reputations thing to control when you start getting attacked in these sorts of ways is that it won't happen if you don't engage with the NPCs. So if you want to build up your base and you want to build up something epic and then decide to start fighting, ACS will go along with that. And once you start fighting, it'll start fighting back. But until you start fighting, it's going to be hands off. It's not going to touch you. It's got no reason to. It doesn't want to. So it'll just leave you alone. No, on a cage, Pirates and Reavers will not give you faction gain with other factions. You will only get faction gain with Pirates. That's it. So I see it as not... I don't see it as a big problem that the switch can only be flicked one way, because you choose when that switch is flicked. You've added the mod because you want to engage with it. You haven't added the mod because you want red blips flying over your screen every now and then. You've added it because you want to engage with it. So you can add it right at the start of your game and then choose your engagement time based on how things go, not some arbitrary thing that I've set. Because if I used threat score, that's an arbitrary thing I set. That's something you don't have control over. This gives the player control. And that's what I like about it. But the other thing to remember, as KB just said, this version of the mod is a lot nicer. It's a lot nicer to you. It doesn't have drones that crash into you. The drones explode. It doesn't do all of those horrible other things. A lot of the things that I felt were painful for the player more than a fun engagement, I've gotten rid of. In some twisted way, I've gone from being the person that loved the enemy NPCs being the hardest things ever to being like, let's have some chill. Let's just have some fun with them. We'll engage with them when we want. We'll leave them when we don't. It's fine. And I don't know, and I think the reason that happened was that that's what I wanted all along. It's just I didn't have the tools or the skills or the the capabilities to do it. So I couldn't actually make something that was more interesting to engage with. And so, yeah, it's... Now that I have those tools, I'm trying to make the mod that I always wanted it to be. Something that would engage you every now and then, that would encourage the player to do things like... The drones that are going to be sent out to you in this war mode, they're small grid with a fixed Gatling. And so you should be able to protect yourself from that. If you haven't protected yourself from that, you also shouldn't be turned to Stone Age by the time you do figure out how to protect yourself. So it's not I'm going to be bringing in some giant large grid thing that's going to lose power and just drop on your base. I'm not going to use large grid drones at all for my bases. Large grid drones will only be in space. Everything else is going to be small grid. But yeah, like what Demon Works said, ACS is assertive, not aggressive. It's not going to actively pick on you until you pick on it. So, back to what we're doing, which is the war trigger will only happen if your reputation is quite low, which I think is fine. I will possibly set that to a different value for the higher difficulty things. Checks whether war mode is true. If war mode's true, fine. Then it'll spawn a drone. Next up is trigger procs enemy, which I think we'll leave it the same as the civilian. The distance is bigger than the civilian though, but might be too big because I set this to 2500 and then set the other one to 1400. So let's instead make the enemy trigger when you're close to attacking but not quite there. So let's say 700 meters. Yeah. Yeah, on Fluffy Dave, the large grid crashes are not great for server performance. There are still going to be issues with the occasional cargo ship just deciding not to do things. Lucas has tried for a long time to fix those things, and he's gotten a lot of the bugs, but there are still the occasional bug. There are bugs floating around, so some of them are just, you can't deal. Sometimes it'll happen. You just got to deal with it, accept it, and enjoy the fact that it works most of the time, and it's still better than any other NPC things we have. Because I don't see MES as competing with AI enabled. I see them as a team of things that work together. Will I be playing Stationeers on my Thursday? Yes. My plan is to do similar to what I've did yesterday. So I'll play my game in the morning, and then I'll do my modding stream after taking a bit of a break for lunch. So we got our chat, and then we got a spawn for enemy. Then we've also got this base support call. So that's the command received. So that's when... So this is the bit that causes the bases to send a drone to help a nearby cargo ship. However, I would like to also make the bases call for help from each other. Though not at easy level. Or maybe at easy level. Maybe at easy level, but we'll make it rare, and then we'll make it more common for the higher levels. Caffeinator, if you swap from the old ACS to the test rival AI one, your existing bases in the game will be just bases that will have turrets. They will do no other. They'll have no other behavior attached to them. They will not spawn drones, but they'll just sit there and shoot you if you come too close. Any new things will spawn and be better. So there's no great harm. It just means that you'll not know whether the mod is broken or not, because you won't know whether you're attacking an old base or a new base. The other thing you can do is remove any of the existing bases when you switch over, and then you won't have any problems. Just go into the Alt F10 menu and go to the entity list and remove any of the existing bases. So base support call. So that's my trigger. That's my action. And we got a damage trigger. Oh! Yeah, I see what I did. Yeah, okay. Okay. So instead of having a range-based call for help, the damage trigger calls for help from a nearby base. I like that I thought of doing that. Funny thing, that. I don't think I actually got to the process of making that work, though. So I need to go back and look at my behaviors I was messing with yesterday. And have a look at what I did for my trigger for... Which one was it? Yeah, here we go. Why did I have a condition prox near A? Can't remember why I set that condition up yesterday. Oh, well, whatever. Doesn't matter. So what I want is this bit. Hey, Thunderfox. Yes. So, this is a trigger. AI action base support call. No. I should be able... Ooh. I wonder if I'll create a problem if I have this damage trigger calling this action. No, that's not the action I want to call. What am I saying? I need to... Yeah, I need to have this action. So trigger damage then gets this as an action. Which then gets that. Yeah, I see action damage. So if damage occurs, then this will try 3 times, a maximum of 3 times, to call for nearby bases to help. We'll set this at a chance of 100% for now, but we'll drop that to a lowish percentage so you don't always get swarmed if there's a nearby base. But I like the idea that once you actually cause damage to these bases, then they go, whoa, 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 whoa. I need some help here. Someone send in some drones. No, I'm getting attacked. Which means we need a chat to say something to that effect. Chat. Base support request, we'll call it. If someone edited that damage list and removed rocket, would you then be able to spam the rockets without the action triggering? I'm not sure. I don't know if all of these need to be listed or if I could just get rid of them and just use damage. I don't know what the default is. And I don't know if having some of them removes some of the other defaults. I've had them there because the very first time I set them up, Lucas told me to put them there. And I don't know why beyond that. Because a lot of this stuff, I'll openly admit, has come about through me writing something going, Lucas, this doesn't work. And then he sends me back a version that works. And then I look at it and go, oh. Oh? Okay, I think I get it. I do the best I can. Right. So we need a new chat profile. So let's go down the bottom. No, not Luna. Let's grab this. And what we want is to call it this. And you guys can tell me if you have a quick idea of something to write for this. So this base, this will be reading as... Wait, what do I do as the author for the... hang on. Need my other chat profiles. Where are they? Space chat, Atmo chat. Yeah, I want author and antenna name. That's what I want. So this is going to be the base that is under attack, sending out a message saying, please help. Please. So I'm just going to start off with something basic like, we are under attack. Please send help immediately. So in theory, this message will always be sent. A reply may or may not be sent. So if there's no other base nearby, you won't get anything coming back. If there's another base nearby, it'll immediately reply with distress call received, drone inbound, because they'll have sent one in. Okay. Yes, indeed, Groz. 99 bottles of bug in the code. 99 bottles of bugs. Fix one up. 127 bottles of bugs in the code. I feel like Mayday's more of a ship thing than a base thing. King of Death, I'm making my MES mod. Assertive Combat Systems. Right. So, in theory, that bit's all happy. Now for the fun part. War and peace. This is the thing that defines whether the bases are in war mode or in peace mode. This is a perfect example of a thing that I tried to do and Lucas fixed for me. So let's have a look. We have trigger 1. It is a timer trigger. It happens once. And it goes to action 1. Action 1 sets peace mode to true and war mode to false. So this is what starts out everything. This is what sets our default beginning thing. When a facility spawns, it begins in peace mode. That's what this is making happen. I think. I'm going to say it with confidence and then add an I think. So I'm going to set my chat broadcasts to true so that I've got our debug things showing up, because that'll tell me whether the bases are doing what they're supposed to do. So our trigger for war is another timer trigger. It will, at some point between 2,400 seconds and 4,800 seconds, which is, what, 30 minutes and 60 minutes? 40 minutes and 80 minutes. I should say 40 minutes and 80 minutes. It will, if the player's reputation is lower than 1400, it will switch from what conditions have? Yeah. So if this condition is met, this condition specifies that peace mode is active. So if peace mode is active, it will... Let me start this again. This trigger for war will happen at some point between 40 and 80 minutes if the player's reputation is less than 1400 and the condition of peace mode is true. It will then enact this action. Action war is set booleans false peace mode, set booleans true war mode. Reset the cooldown timers of these two triggers. And the chat broadcast is currently set to true. And war and peace action war. That chat will be sent out. Trigger peace is a shorter duration. So the trigger for peace, the timer here, is the time that the base will remain in war mode. Just confusing, but this time is the time it will take before it triggers to war mode. This time is the time it will take before it triggers to peace mode. I wrote them that way when I started, so I'm sticking with it. This time is obviously 10 minutes and 20 minutes. So it will only stay in war mode for a quarter, on average, of the time it stays in peace mode. So it'll be peaceful more than it's aggressive. And this one checks to see if it's in war mode. And if it's in war mode, it'll switch into peace mode. And these are my... oh, right. These are my chats. But I actually kept the... I kept the war mode chat active so that you, as a player, get some warning that you might start seeing increased hostilities. And then I did have a peace one, but I think I hid it because I didn't really like the idea of you being... I wasn't sure whether I wanted the player to know that things had changed back to peace. Though... yeah, action piece is true. Initial one is true. Okay. So what I need to do for testing this is reduce these timers to something a lot shorter so we'll actually see it happen. So I think... yeah, Apocrypha, you're right. I love the chat messages. Great design. The best AI in the world doesn't matter for gameplay if it's not communicated properly to the player. Might as well be random. 100%. And I don't have a better means of communicating this to the player. I also don't have a means of telling the player they should get attacked, and if they don't, something's wrong. So what sort of time frame should I set so that I remember that we're going to leave it at this? Let's go with... that'd be 2 seconds. If I get rid of that, what's that end up being? 24 seconds to 48 seconds. That's perfect. We'll do the same for this. We'll go from 6 seconds to 12 seconds. Wait, Kaylin, did you just clip me doing my noises? Is that what that clip is? I thought so. All right. In theory, we now have the Atmo Easy behavior set up in a way that we can test to make sure that the war mode is working. We can test to make sure that the peace mode is working. So let's test that first. But to do that, I need to make sure that my faction standing with Assert is less than 1400. No. No, I want to test it now. Let's reload. And I'm going to see if I can... yeah, I'll see if the war mode triggers at all. Because the war mode shouldn't trigger at all because my faction standing is not low enough. And you could see how many times I had to shoot that base to get my faction standing that low. It's not like you'll
Fuel critical.
get there by accidentally hitting a couple of things. You do have to do a bit of engagement. What do we get? Actually, I need to make sure it's one of the ones that actually has the easy AI rather than the other one. Observation Outpost 23. What? Oh, my threat score is too low. There we go. Okay, so our initial trigger works. If we wait here a minute and we've seen no activity from that base, then we'll be certain that the war mode does not work. Because my faction standing is too low. It's not low enough. If it triggers, which it did, poop. That's not supposed to trigger. Alright, what have I done wrong? My faction score is not... So my faction score currently is minus 1362. I think I changed them all to minus 1400. But maybe I didn't. So... oh, okay. Prox enemy is 1350. Condition prox war. Trigger prox war. It's minus 1400. What about our war and peace? So this trigger war shouldn't happen. It shouldn't be happening. I don't know why it's ignoring that condition of it. Um, I mean, it switched to war mode, but it didn't send me a drone. So that some aspect of this is working, but some aspect of it isn't. And I don't know why this is being forcibly triggered when that condition should be stopping it from being triggered. What is different between these two? Other than starts ready, I can't see anything that's different. The trigger type, of course, it's a timer, so... Wonder if this needs to be above the cooldown. I don't know if these are read sequentially or not. Or if they're all checked before it does anything. So let's just try it. I don't think this is likely to fix it, but I figure it's worth a shot. See if I have like a little gatekeeping with this coming up first. Maybe. Maybe. I will say though, despite this not working exactly how I want it, the fact that it's working at all is something that's making me quite happy. I was expecting this just not to work at all. So, winner. We've got initial trigger. Let's start the timer. Please work. Please work. Please work. It's really annoying if this doesn't work. No! Why? Why you do this? Huh? It's rude, it's rude, it's rude. To be fair, Kaylin, these frustration goes Cameron. Why you do this? Why is it like this? I wonder. What if I put this here? Does that stop it? This is also probably the perfect stream for getting audio clips if you want to get embarrassed. Well, if I do anything that's amusing, because there's no or very minimal game sound in the background. So yes, I will acknowledge that, yes, Kaylin, your clips may be something wasted once. Although, to be fair, he hasn't really used too many of mine, except for no. He has used that one on me a couple of times. Okay. The checks are not working at all. Why? Lucas isn't online, is he? Can't annoy him with it. No, he's not. Poop. Black Shadow, I've my not frustration is possibly because it's early in the morning and I'm always a lot happier earlier in the morning. Also, I expected this to not work at all. So, you know, the fact that it works at all is something. I just don't know why it's ignoring the max player reputation. Doesn't make sense. Where have I got? Just trying to remember where TFE might have sent me what I'm looking for. So let's look at triggers. Let's look at the... what's it called? Player reputation. Max player reputation. Oh! This isn't a compatible trigger type. That's why. So what I think I'm going to have to do is set up... I'm going to have to set up a condition. So I think I know how I can do this. I'll create a player near trigger. Or a player far trigger. It doesn't actually matter. That basically will always go off. And I'll probably use a player far trigger. That will set a condition. Yeah, I think I know how to do this. So what I'm going to do is at the beginning here, let's create a new trigger. This trigger type is going to be player far. And we're going to go over here and grab the player far trigger and just have a look at it. Make sure I'm setting it right. Player far, use trigger 2. Where are my player distance triggers? Thanks, Steve IMD. Thanks for 5 months. Here we go. Here's a player near trigger. We'll just copy that. Let's start from something easier. So we have a new one, which is AI, War, and Peace, trigger, standing trigger. So this is a rival trigger. It's going to be a player far. Use trigger true. Target distance is going to be just 10 meters. So if the player is further than 10 meters from this, this trigger will run, because I want this to run all the time. There are no max actions for this. I will put a cooldown on this, but let's just make it short for now. The reason I want a cooldown is I don't want this running all the time. And the action is going to set a particular condition which I can check. So if we go down to, say, this one, it'll be an action like this. It'll set booleans true enemy. Or I'll call it war and peace enemy, just so that I make sure it's related specifically to this function. So action, we'll call this war and peace set enemy. We'll grab this. So this is... actually, we'll call it action set enemy, so that it's clear that this is an action, not a trigger or anything else. I try and put action, trigger, or condition in the actual name in the subtype ID, just so that I know that what I'm pointing to, because I find it is helpful. So set booleans true is war and peace enemy. Yeah, let's have we'll have a chat data, which I will create in a second, which is a debug, but we'll turn that off. Or I could have this be a thing that plays once, and because it'll only play once, and it'll be like, no, actually that'll be cheesy. I'll leave it off. I don't want it on. So standing trigger, this standing trigger is going to have the max player reputation in it. And we can remove it from the other ones. So that's really true. Max player rep, minus 1400. Let's get rid of it from the other ones. I'm glad I checked this, because it would have taken me a while to figure out that it was because it was the wrong trigger type for that condition. So if our player reputation is less than 1400 and it's in this minimum cooldown and you're further than 10 meters away from the center of this grid, then this action will happen. This action will set booleans to true, war and peace enemy. Now I need to create a condition thing for that. So action set enemy. So we have war and peace, condition, enemy. Use conditions true, match any conditions false, check true booleans true, and the true boolean I am checking is this one. So if this hasn't been set to true, i.e. if this action hasn't run, we can now put this as a condition for all of these triggers. So war and peace trigger 1. This will have conditions of this. So if this isn't set to true, if this condition thing doesn't show as a yes, then the war and peace won't trigger. Hey TFE, just figuring out my drone, my seeker drone sort of functionality. And I think I'm getting there. I think I've figured out something that I'm feeling kind of chuffed about. Because I read the right piece of documentation at the right time and saw that I'd done something that I thought should work, but definitely shouldn't have. And I think what I've done is a nice workaround for it. Because I was trying to use player reputation as a cutoff for a timer trigger, but player reputation is only valid for player near or player far triggers. So instead of having a timer trigger to do it, I've just created a condition using a standing trigger that will always go off. It's a bit bodgy, but it should work, I think. So let's go back to the start. Let's make sure. I think I've written everything that needs to be done. So when War and Peace starts running, we will check to see if the player is further than 10 meters away and has a faction standing of less than 1400. If that's the case, we will go to our action where we will set the enemy Boolean to true. If not, we won't do this and it will be false. This condition checks the state of that Boolean. If it is true, this condition is true. If it is false, this condition is false. So now we go on to our regular stuff. The initial triggering will check against this condition above, and if it's false, will not activate. If it's true, it'll activate and proceed. And I'm going to put the condition in here as well. When the player is getting close to minus 1400, you could say something like, warning, continued aggression will result in bad stuff. Maybe. Cool. Think that's ready to test. No, it's not. No, it's not. What I need to do is create this chat. I need to chat. We got some debug chats down the bottom. Yeah, there'll be a multiplayer stream a bit later. I'm not sure when the guys are up for that, but I'm just going to keep doing this until they tell me they're ready. In fact, I should probably jump in TeamSpeak so when Capat comes online, I'm already there. Alright. Where did I put that chat? Chat, War and Peace Enemy. That's what I'm going to call it. Okay. In theory, that should broadcast if my faction standing is less than 1400, and if it's not less than 1400, it should not broadcast. Let's remove everything again. Save the game and reload. Ooh, please, 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 please work. What a kludgy way of me working around this issue.
Critical.
have an outpost. It's 3.01 kilometers away. Nothing has come up. It is not showing any broadcasts. Either I've broke it entirely or it's working. And the only way for me to test is to go shoot it. Nope. Yep, that's fine. There you go, we got drones coming in. Oh. And because I'm below 1350, I got more drones. I'm below 1350, but I'm not below 1400 yet. I'm about to be, though. Let's get rid of those drones. And let's check my faction standing. It is minus 1362. Minus 1372. That'd put me at minus 1393, 94, 95, 96. $97, $98, $99, $1,400. Now I did set a timer for that thing, but it should be... It's 1402. Has it? Huh. I think it answered its own distress call. That could be an issue. I think I need to create a separate command for when the bases send out. Oh no, that still won't work. I think it's always going to answer its own support call. Oh well. It's awkward, but whatever. What happens if we get a new base now? I might have just broken it. I'll be back in a sec. Sorry, guys. What have I broken? How? How have I broken it? Let's go back up the top. Oh, I know why it's broken. Yep. Yep. I don't know why the music would have been funny there. I haven't dropped any frames or anything. I need to add this trigger to my... this bit. I didn't actually add the trigger up here. Did the same thing yesterday as well. Okay. Fingers crossed it works now. I think my faction standing is below 1400 at this point. So it should trigger on spawn. I'll just check my faction standing before I spawn anything in. Hopefully it works.
Fuel critical.
Yeah, minus 1402. What the... I'm gonna delete you. Aha! Aha! Okay. Exit. That started the process. Let's check something. If I roll back a bit to where my faction standing is lower, is it going to higher, lower? It's confusing. Wait, I want that. I want backups. Clicked on the wrong button. Backups. Let's go back. So I was starting the process when my faction standing was low. Is it going to avoid starting the process when my faction standing is not so low? I really hope this works. The cool thing, I think, one of the nice things once all this basic behavior is in, I hope that I don't have to touch it. I hope that I can just leave it and have... Is my faction standing already too low? No, it's not. I hope that I can just... Wait, did it send out... Oh, no. I think it sent out the message like it was already hostile. Let's see. Yeah, so I think once all this basic behavior's in, I can add extra behaviors to it later, to different ships and stuff like that. I shouldn't need to touch this base level stuff. Once it's working, it should just be able to be left, and that's fine. So, like I was saying earlier about doing streams where I make extra bases, make extra ships, that sort of stuff. I can also do streams where I make a new behavior. If we can think up something cool that I can understand how to do. Because what I was thinking might have been a smarter way to approach my division of these behaviors was have a separate file for each type of behavior rather than not. Okay, so it's definitely not triggering now. Let's go right up to it and shoot it a bunch of times and see if it flicks over. for drones. Check my faction standing. Aha! Initial trigger. All assert facilities. Hostiles have been seen in the area. Increase drone patrols immediately. Drone pilots engage at will. Resume regular patrols. Yes! Now... this should probably only run once. How do I make the trigger only run once? It keeps running again and again and again. I could make the cooldown. I could just make the cooldown bigger. Can it depend on the boolean it sets? Yes. That depends though. Is there a check false boolean? Black Shadow, is that your way of saying your brain hurts? Condition. This tag specifies allows you to provide a subtype ID of a condition profile that can be used to perform further checks before the trigger is activated. I think I might have to create another condition. And another boolean. Yeah, I think to make this only trigger when it's... Oh. Actually, yeah. No. What am I saying? If this condition is true, this needs to not run. But I think the way that this is set up, the only thing you can do with conditions is check if they're true, and if true, run. So... how do I do that? How... Hi, Rick. If you're looking for help with Space Engineers stuff, head to the Discord server and go to the please help channel. That'll be the best place to get help, because it's hard for me to help people coming into chat when I'm also struggling with stuff myself. And I'm trying to focus on figuring out complex things that are really struggling. Set a condition that switches to false once it starts. But then I need another. So. Gannett, I should finish editing the next episode of Survival Impossible on Wednesday. I'm fingers crossed I can finish it and get it out this week. That's my plan. None that I'm aware of, Biocom. I don't think there's any way that Lucas has implemented it to just do it if there's a faction standing change check. Trigger toggle with trigger profile. Could that have been useful? I don't understand how that's going to work, though. Use fail condition. Ah, here we go. Specifies if the trigger should instead activate only if it's type, condition, any attached condition profiles do not pass their checks. Ha! Lucas has got a negative check. Oh, wait, no. It's this. No, it's not. It's this. I'll get there eventually. Let's see if that made any difference. Perhaps it will, perhaps it won't. We will see.
Fuel critical.
What's my faction standing at? Oh, it's already there. Well, that's not helpful. I need to roll back further. Glad you enjoyed SI annoying JC. There'll be more soon, probably this week, depending on how much I get distracted by things like this. And setting up other bits and pieces that I'm doing. Backups. Let's go right back. Oh, Capac's online on Discord. He might be popping into chat in a moment. And there's Speak of the Devil. Morning.
Ah, now I have to mute your stream.
Yeah, I imagine that's a bit off-putting.
What's going on today?
So what I'm doing right now is testing to see whether my faction standing check is working properly for my installations part of the coming proper release of the Assertive Combat Systems mod. So basically, what I want the bases to do is be passive, pretty much, unless you move in to attack them, until your reputation with Assert drops below negative 1400. So
Okay.
at this level, they should just do their basic stuff, which is if you get too close, they'll send out a drone. If you attack them, they'll send in more drones. But once you've attacked them enough times, they'll actually start hunting you down. So periodically, they'll increase their range of attack to 20 kilometers, 15, whatever I set it to, and send a drone to you from each of the bases nearby. But only once your faction standing has dropped to that level.
I see.
If your faction standing's not there, then you can keep building up in peace and you can wait until you're ready to engage and start that phase of your Space Engineers game. As the player, you're in complete control. And it looks like...
Is there a way to repair your standing?
No. That's an unfortunate limitation of the Keen's devising, and I don't have a system that I could use that would allow that. This
So
is the
they're
best
just-
system I've got.
They're just really, really angry then.
Yeah, they get really angry when you start shooting them. And there's no way to bribe them to make them not shoot you anymore. Well, I need to finish ACS so that I can go in and... Well, actually, the bases that are already in SI are going to be a bit weird. Potentially, they'll may not even have their behaviors properly attached. Depending on how that's going to work with the new mod. But we'll see. I do want to be able to engage with this sort of stuff properly when I get to that point in Survival Impossible, though. So, faction standing currently 1362. There we go. We just triggered it to go to war mode. Now, the thing I was just testing now is it going to repeatedly send that message, or have I fixed it so it doesn't do that? And it's just going to do its war and peace change modes. I think it's fine. The little cinematic you did for Survival, maybe the solo one before the big base assault, was still fun to watch. That was super fun to make. I love that. I not stopped the thing from happening. It is still doing the message. Why?
What's it doing?
So see that message that's being repeatedly sent? Due to recent aggressive actions, all bases are now on high alert. That I'm wanting to have only send once. So what I've tried to do is have a fail condition. So this trigger is meant to... The trigger works well enough that I could just use it and I could just turn off the chat broadcast and it'll be fine. But I would like to make it so that it doesn't actually run, because that would be optimal.
Is it tied to the range that you are from one of their bases?
No. So what this trigger's doing is Well, actually, it sort of is tied to a range, but it effectively isn't. The idea of this trigger is to always trigger. So it will always check if your player reputation is less than 1400 at this frequency. But
Yeah.
it should only do that if this condition fails. If this condition is... Wait, what? It should not do this if this condition fails? Or it should only do this if this condition fails? It should only do this if this condition fails, I think. Oh, wait, hang on. I've done this wrong. That should be true. And then I need the next line that has the actual fail, the condition. Because it should be this. Which should be this. That's why it's not working, I think. Use fail condition true, conditions this. Well, Black Shadow, you guys are my programmer ducky. And right now Capac is. Because he's asking me to explain stuff and I have to go back to the beginning and try and check it all through, and it helps me find a lot of the problems. It also helps me keep calm and not get too frustrated.
So how often is this function meant to be
It
checking?
should stop running once you flick over that line. And it only runs occasionally anyway. Like, it only runs every, like, 10 seconds or something. But I do need it to run with some... I do need it to run somewhat often initially.
But don't you need it to run regularly all the time though? Like don't you want like...
So what the trigger does, it calls an action. The action sets you to be an enemy.
Yeah.
What I'm doing is checking if it's set you to be an enemy, then it doesn't need to do anything. If it hasn't set you to be an enemy, then it needs to run its checks. That's what I'm trying to set up at the moment.
But shouldn't it also provide an update to the player that they are set as an enemy?
It does that. It will do that. The idea is for it to do that the first time and then not to need to do it because you're already an enemy, so it doesn't need to tell you again.
But like it should though.
Why?
Like it should, like...
That'll be obnoxious. You'll keep getting messages sent that you're an enemy.
Well, it depends what time frame you're sending them on. But like, say if somebody's like playing a game and then they boot it up in like 6 months' time and they don't know, it would be pretty handy for them to know that every base is about to come down on them like a ton of bricks.
Well, why is this doing this? What's happening now? The thing is, once you become an enemy, you can never become friendly again, so...
Yeah, but you're relying on the player to remember things.
Yeah. So
which isn't always going to happen.
I think this will send the message every time you load the game. Once.
Okay, yeah.
That's what I want. Currently, it sends it repeatedly every 5 or 10 seconds. I don't even want it... I would like it to send it at most once per play session. Urgh! Why is this check now broken?
I mean, I'd probably have it trigger when you get in range of the bases again.
No, because the base range is irrelevant.
I mean, it's irrelevant to the function, but it's like useful information to the player.
No, because you don't have to be in range for the bases to send an enemy at you. I feel like it's now ignoring this again. My faction standing is not below 1400. This shouldn't be running at all, but it is again.
Uh,
Yeah, but TFE, the session trigger doesn't have reputation check as an option. The only ones that do are player near and player far. And I need the reputation check. So I can't use a session trigger. I don't actually know what use fail condition does. Should only trigger if they do not pass their checks. Is it just repeating because of the fail condition since it's constantly checking? No. So if this trigger should fail in the load, the game that I've currently got loaded, it should get to this point and say your faction reputation is not low enough, therefore we don't run this action. But what I think is happening is it's an or rather than an and function here. So it's checking if this or this is correct, and if either of those is correct, it's running the action.
wait,
What I want is an and.
is it checking to see if the player is an enemy before it's changed the player to an enemy?
Correct.
Is that just because of the order of operations you've got there?
Oh wait, has it, or is it holding on to that? Do I need something that's going to set?
Because you've got the action set enemy as the last.
No, but that calls this action, which is a separate thing.
Okay.
What I think I need is a thing that sets, because I think perhaps it's saving it in some memory somewhere. That's why I'm stuck in this Boolean is set true. So what I think I need to do, just to prevent this particular little quirk, is set up a thing that will set it to false initially.
War and peace enemy and war and peace condition enemy supposed to be the same value?
Say that again.
But you've got the AI war and peace condition enemy, and you've got war and peace enemy.
So no, they're not. So this condition matches to this, which is a check against that Boolean value. Because you can't directly check against a Boolean in the trigger profile.
Okay.
You have to check a condition which checks a boolean, which is set by this action.
No, I'm not making any mods. Barely managed to make breakfast.
No, the use conditions thing is a condition thing. It's not a trigger thing. Or is it? No. I think conditions here is an alternate version of use fail condition. I think. Um, I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, bless you, Kamak. That's my chat saying. I was so focused on reading this, I sort of tuned out your sneeze. Where have I got some conditions? Where am I using some conditions? I need to find a trigger where I'm using a condition and checking against it. Trigger procs near, there's no condition check there. Those actions are checking against conditions, but I... Oh, hold up. What have I done? All right, I think... Yeah. So what is conditions? Conditions is... So I've got this set up correctly. Conditions is checking the subtype profile ID. And then it should be use fail conditions. Maybe there's... I didn't think the order of these would matter, but maybe it does. Um... Else actions. This tag specifies which action profiles will be executed when the trigger profile conditions are not satisfied. That doesn't help me. Oh, I'm so lost as to how to do this better than what I'm currently doing it. Oof. Hmm. Is there any check you can do that would then run the trigger, or does it always have to be running and checking within itself? I mean, well, Tiffy, I know Capac thinks I should have the message sent, but that's because he doesn't know that the bases send out a message whenever they go into war mode anyway. So you'll be notified when you're about to get any attack from the enemies will be telescoped anyway. Telegraphed, I should say. So this chat isn't required. I can just turn off the chat, but I want to see if I can make this so it doesn't get broken by a reload like I've done. I can't think of a way to do it. Which is a bugger. Let's delete that and create a new fresh test. I should really have a fresh test file that I actually keep clean. Just so that I can see fire. I always seem to want to have that, at least that. Needs modular counter systems. And that's actually all I technically need. Yeah, Groz. So many saves for testing different things. Yeah, if I'm not going to have the message, it probably doesn't matter, and I can just make it run no more frequently than every 5-10 minutes. So that may be the solution I end up choosing. I suspect it will be, because it's the easy one. Also, Capac, have you spoken to Wasted?
Not yet.
You're just zoning out for a bit.
Yeah,
Health
kind of.
critical.
Oh no.
What?
I open a tab with Wasted stream in it to see what he's up to, and I got an ad for the Halo TV show. Like,
I don't know if that's the right base, so I'm going to remove it.
he's doing something with an octopus.
Okay. It doesn't work. Getting rid of this, because it was working before that. And I'm going to leave the chat on for a second, and then we'll turn it off. Because I'd rather this work than fiddle with this stuff for anyone, because this is not working. Hey, JMD. Thanks so much for 5 months. The mod programming is going frustrating in the last little bit. No, the match any condition is for the conditions profile, and that's already in the conditions profile, Dragon Knight, as I understand it. So if we have a look down here, we got condition, match any conditions. That's not for the trigger profile. Yes, laws. I mean the chat message in the game. Be really weird to stream with chat turned off. Real weird. See you, Black Shadow. Ouch, laws. Ouch. Turning off chatter to be like a Capac stream.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? Do you resemble that remark?
Look, I'm easily distracted.
Like by octopi.
Yeah, Wasted trying to set up some kind of a head tracking in armor and not having much success.
I see. I still don't get head tracking as anything but an accessibility feature. I don't turn my head to the side to make my screen turn. That'd be very off-putting, I imagine. Very useful in an accessibility setting, but doesn't seem like the sort of thing that would be useful otherwise.
I mean, once you get used to it...
Yeah, but still, you'd have to turn your head to the right, then turn it back so you can look at your screen again. And then your screen would look back. So what does it achieve?
Well,
like, without a head-mounted display, I don't see how it's useful.
well, you can use it... Like, the best use I can think of for it is to use it as like a... It's like an extra, like, thumbstick for, like, camera control.
But again, how do you overcome the issue I just said?
Well, you just have, like, small movements. Like, it tracks you sort of looking at the... more to the left of the screen, and it looks like to the left, like out of your plane or whatever.
Yeah, it's just... I think it seems very gimmicky. Or accessibility feature.
Well, I mean, it's been around for decades now, and it hasn't caught on very much, so...
My take is probably not far off.
Well, it's definitely not a mainstream option.
Like, I just... It doesn't seem to add anything meaningful unless you need it for controlling, because for some reason you can't use standard controls. In which case, super useful, super awesome, that's the thing. But outside of those use cases, it just seems to be...
I mean, I think I'd rather have, what do they call it? The tracking of your, like, where you're looking, like, not which way your head moves, but, like, where your sort of eyes are pointed at. Because then you can have, like, context sensitive, like, user interfaces.
Oh, right. So if you're looking at a thing, it'll change what it does. Yeah, that seems useful. It just, for moving your viewpoint around in a game, it just seems... The only reason you'd want head tracking is if you've got a head-mounted display. because then the display moves with your head, so you need to have the thing move with you. Having multiple displays around you, you don't need head tracking because the display should already be showing stuff, so that's in your peripheral vision. Unless you've got some sort of foveal rendering type tech where it tries to cull rendering efforts for anywhere but exactly where you're looking, I don't see how it's useful. And no game employs that as far as I'm aware.
Oh, this is so weird. I got Splitsy in one stream shooting a house, and I got wasted in another stream flying around in a heli chopper.
Minus 1400, I'm not getting chat messages. Why? Oh, because I think I might have killed it. I killed it. Yeah, it's all off that.
Fuel low.
Dang it! I need a fresh base. Yeah, there we go.
Fuel critical.
Okay, it's working as it needs to work. Cool. That is a relief. No, Xendo, there are no additional conditions to check. So there's nothing to add. Unless I'm misunderstanding what you're saying. I think you needed to add additional conditions to the condition object. There aren't additional conditions. The only condition is checking this true boolean. So what I was doing was saying if this true boolean returns false, then keep running this check. If this returns true, stop running this. So don't run this action, which means you don't get the chat. Yeah, Splitsy kills base. Splitsy won't want to talk to me. I feel like head tracking stuff and eye tracking stuff when used for making small motions do big things. Why not just have VR at that point? It just seems like it's one of these techs that will always be niche. And it's just a bit weird. I don't get. Cool. With that done, let's turn off the chat. And if the dog barks again, I'm going to have to get up and get her to come back into the shed. Yeah, Gruz, no one's going to convince me that this is useful. I feel like it's a stepping stone that is a sunken cost on the way to a better system. the stuff that Capac's talking about, are like context sensitivity in the way things work based on where you're looking on the screen. That could be really useful for a lot of different interface systems. But yeah. Let's make this longer. Make it run every 10 minutes. I've got to imagine that anyone who struggles with VR is going to struggle with head tracking or eye tracking that moves your viewpoint, because that's less natural than the way VR works when it's working optimally. Why are you always looking at the ground? Oh, you have VR goggles and haven't learned to touch type. That's fine. I need to Wait, hang on. Thing I haven't actually checked is whether this is doing the stuff it's meant to do in war mode. So I need to increase the timer on this. So it'll switch to war mode, it'll stay in war mode, and we can see if the bases are going to spawn drones against us. Wonder how many people, after using head tracking for a long gaming session, do really weird things when looking at people in the real world.
Critical.
Because they've adjusted to this new thing of turning a little bit to turn a lot. I wonder how many people get weirdness with that.
I don't know. You have to be doing that kind of thing for like a long time to get sort of noticeable effects out of it.
Yeah, but plenty of people have pretty long game sessions. It doesn't take that long for our neurons to acclimate to a different style of input. Oh, what am I doing? I want to keep away from it. Let's see if it sends a drone at me. Oh, that appears to have been something sent from a long way away. Now that we're in war mode. So that seems to have worked. Let's set it to crazy frequent. Try again. So that I need to go back to this. And we need our trigger war. Where's the... No, that's not it.
Hmm.
No, where... What? That's what I wanted. Trigger procs war. Hmm? Yes?
I'm getting more channel points in Wasted Stream because I have to chat. On your stream, I'm talking on TeamSpeak, so I don't get any channel points.
Have you also got me muted?
Well, yeah, I've got your stream muted.
So you get fewer when I'm muted.
Otherwise, I hear myself.
But if you put it to like a super low volume to where you can't actually hear it, but it's not actually muted, then you'll get more channel points. Because muted, you don't even count as a viewer.
Wow, how rude.
Yeah. So that's 30 to 45 seconds. Let's change it to 3 to 4.5 seconds. Because that should then, yeah, keep sending drone after drone after drone after drone.
Fuel critical.
And let's spawn a base. Our war trigger has happened. Should switch to... maybe... switch to war mode in a second. Once it switches, though, in theory, I should have a new drone coming every 5 seconds or so. Come on. There we go. I'm within the range. Why is nothing spawning? Oh no. They're spawning. They're just not in range yet. Oh yeah, they're spawning. Are they actually going to come to me? I hear them moving. Yes. Oh boy.
There's a lot of mosquitoes.
Yeah.
You're gonna need some bug spray.
Yep. This is gonna get silly very, very quickly.
Ooh, unknown signal.
Of course. Let's see if I can get it before they shoot it.
Ooh.
No! Oh, a prisoner grinder. That's a lot of friends. That.
The Codex Astartes labels this maneuver Steel Rain.
So yeah, that works. Cool. That's good to know. Alright, so that means I can now change this back to a more reasonable time frame so that it'll only get a chance to spawn a few drones during the war phase. So Once you trigger into war, that would be 30 seconds minimum. Let's go instead to... what did I have before? Did I have 5 minutes? 5 minutes seems too long. Let's go 3 minutes. Every 3 minutes up to every... whatever that is. So that's pretty rare. And it should only stay in war mode for somewhere around 10 minutes. Which means it'll at most send you 3 or 4 drones from each base. I think that's about right, so that you'll actually, as a player, notice the difference between the two modes. Cool. Tested that function. We've now got... now I've got to set these times up correctly. Increase that delay. Yeah, 2400, that's right. That's 20, that's, sorry, 40 and 80 minutes. It'll stay in peace mode, which sounds like a long time, but actually really isn't. And that's 10 to 20 minutes. Maybe we'll drop that down. Yeah, let's go that. What is that? Too many zeros? No, that's right. That's right. Well, let's go 90 instead. So chats. Let's turn off some of the chats. And this one. Oh, take it wasted hasn't said anything, come back.
No, not yet.
Did you want to just do something, the two of us? For now.
Well, I mean, he's got in his stream title, then City Boy, so I presume he's still up for it. He's just still messing around with the helicopters, and I don't think he's seen my Discord message.
Right. We could play some Rocket League and confuse people for a bit.
Oh dear.
I'm not being serious. Broadcast files. I also want to... I need to find all the chats and see whether they're happening.
I could tell him in his chat that you're sort of winding up your stream now if you want.
Yeah. Action War, I do want that one. Broadcast. Action Peace, I don't. And the initial trigger needs to not do it either. Okay. Oh man, the bird's nest caffeinator. You're really playing with the old version of the mod. Wow. Those bases aren't even in the new one. Are we seeing a return to the city with the three-headed mare of odd and unusual planning? Seems likely. Although, I suspect we need to keep in mind our backup game plan because the game was starting to become a little unstable toward the end. But, I think I'm at the point where I can leave this till Thursday. As I've tested the War and Peace stuff thoroughly, the stuff I need to fiddle with on Thursday for the base's behavior is checking that the proximity spawns are working the way I want them and checking that the damage triggers are working the way that I wanted them to. Because I think those are both really important things to make sure are working. And with that done, the behavior side of stuff is sorted. Then it's all about making sure the grids are correct for what I want them to be for the updated weapons and all that sort of stuff. That is quite the swarm. Oh, there was a collision. Multiple collisions. So many collisions. For those of you worried, this is not going to happen in the mod. This is just testing level of drones. Because I don't want to sit around waiting for hours to make sure something works and it's not going to. Blammo! Is there a way to turn off the hit markers? Crosshair, select hit type. If I turn the transparency to that. No? Game, UI. Select hit type. Oh, that's that. That's when you shoot, not when you're shot. I don't think there's any way to turn this off. Well, that sucks. That's really annoying. Grid, kill, headshot, friendly enemy. That's really annoying for being in spectator cam, looking at yourself and seeing all the hit markers still come up. Why, Keen, do you refuse to let me have a clean HUD? I was thinking this would be an amusing shot for a I'll be back soon screen, but with the hit markers coming up, it's ugly. It is kind of fun watching them though. Oh, that was a good hit. Yeah, I'd have to have someone else be the target, like Steve. Or Capac.
You need an umbrella.
Yeah. Well, still no word from Mr. Space.
He just landed his A10 in a field. I think he's wrapping up.
Okay. Cool. I might go grab a bit of a snack. And then Capac, Wasted, and I will get back for some more City Skylines shortly.
Yep.
Yep. So, right here on Twitch, in about probably 10-15 minutes, I reckon we'll start.
Mm-hmm.
Be my suspicion. I might come back and chat with you guys shortly, but I just want to grab some food first. I will be back with some more assertive modding on Thursday after my Stationeer stream in the morning. And then Friday, Capac and I will be back with some more Ark. And Capac will be back Thursday evening for his
Surprise game.
cocktails with Capac stream.
Yeah, that.
Have you made a cocktail on that stream anytime recently?
Yeah,
Okay.
I had like a tequila lemon lima bitters last week.
Right.
Or an attempt at it, didn't really work.
Okay.
But it was drinkable.
Alright. Well, so yeah, either hang around or I'll see you guys on Thursday. So plenty more to come, and I'll see you soon. Doop. Actually, you know what? I'm half tempted to just leave you guys on this screen, but I'm not gonna, because I gotta close the game.